Welcome
Welcome
participants.
participants.
We'll
We'll
be
be
just
just
starting
starting
in a
in a
minute.
minute.
Welcome participants.
Hello, am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about time complexity and space complexity. We will see some Python utilities to verify whether there exists some kind of this practical set time complexity. So you can also have the same session in C and C++, the size of operator. For example, if you want to find the size of the integer, we have discussed that it is of 2 bytes, but in as per as 32-bit system and the Python version is based on the compiler, the size of data just differs. As we know, everything in Python is classes. So therefore, there is some variation between the size of the data type. But for example purpose, we are taking the Python examples to identify that there exists some memory space, that is memory complexity. So we can say time and space complexity is there. So we'll today study properly with some examples for time and space complexity using Python. So I'll just share the screen for you. Now we'll just create an integer object over here. So I create an integer object. So say the object is IA. I stands for integer. A is the variable name, and you give some value to it. Say 100. Second, we'll create a character variable, simple character. So I say CH1. So this is your first character. We will take a simple character as A, and another will take a floating point variable. So I'll take FA, that is floating point number A, and let us take its value as 100.100. Now another variable we'll add, that is we are constantly using, that is suppose characters. So string we can. So next is we'll put a string, and let us see xyz is the initialization of the string. Now to identify its data type, we have the function name type. So I put the function name type, and in that we use IA. So you can see that it is belong to the class integer. And take down the steps. First we have to find the class of that object, and in C++ or C, in Turbo C we can say it was integer has a byte of 2. Now for finding the type of, that is the memory requirement of the integer, so I have to import a particular file name import sys, and in this you can type sys.get size of. So this is the size of variable, and in that you put the variable name as a parameter. We'll find that it is showing us that IA has the size of 14 bytes, and it is of type integer. It is dependent on the compiler size. Let us find the size of floating point operator. So first point type, and in that you have to find ch1 now first. So what is ch1? It's the type of string, and find the size of it. Sys dot get size of. So get size of, and in bracket you can give the name that ch1, that is character. So it took as minimum 26 characters or 26 bytes we can say to store a string. So it is a class. So in abstract data type, some parts are hidden from us, and therefore it takes extra memory for when we use Python like high level compilers. If you observe that if you use a low level compilers as C and C++, the data size may differ, and since it is an object, therefore it is taking more size. Floating point operation and check. So first type FA, that is the floating point variable. FA is a floating point variable. You can see it belongs to class float. And similarly, we use system.get size of, and in that you type FA. You see that the floating point variable is of 16 bytes. It is an object of 16 bytes. Everyone able to understand the memory requirement with respect to the variable? Yes, participants. So when we have a particular structure or a class, so that will also require some memory. So it can be identified by the system.get size of function is used to identify the memory requirements of a particular system. Now let us move whether the time complexity exists in reality for a particular program. So we'll see the demonstration for this. Let me create a file for you. We'll be using simple Python functions, and for time complexity analysis we have to import the function time. And let us say start time is equal to time dot time. Similarly, we will have the end time. So et end time is equal to time dot time, and finally we print execution time of program. So over here it is a simple matter of end time minus start time, and generally it is given in milliseconds or seconds, we can say. Very correct. Okay, there is some network error, but still I'll show you with respect to the camera if it is possible. Just be patient for a minute. Okay, it is we are getting the connection. Just a minute. So designed. Fine, it is visible now. Yes, but
Yes, sir.
so you can see the code. The first is we have to import the time, then we have to record the start time, that is st, then we have to record the end time, and in between the start time and end time we have to write our code. So whatever is the code, it should be written over here. First we'll see whether it is, if we are able to run the program. We'll say it is time complexity, so I'll put it some time over here. So you can see that the program was executed in 0.0 milliseconds. That means there were no code over there. So now let us move to some instructions over there. So what we'll do, I put a simple instruction. Initially I is equal to 0 for I in range 0 to 100, and simply print the numbers. Not a great task, but a simple task, that is I. And let us see how much time it takes for our program to work with. So you can see that the execution time of the program is it took about 3.06 seconds. Are you able to see the output? Yes, participants?
Yes, sir.
So now this were as per as the first quantum has been concerned. We have just used a simple print statement. Now I want to use a counter. So I put a count over here. So count is equal to 0. Let us put this in the name, count 1. And finally over here I put count 1 is equal to count 1 plus 1. So for easy understanding, and out of the loop I am going to print the final count. So print count 1. Now let us analyze that we have introduced one more number, that is count 1, and observe what is the output. To put some instructions over here so we can identify that is the count. Now it is okay. So you can see that as we insert 1 over there, we have some time. So it is 1.22 milliseconds. Why this difference happened? That due to the counter, there is some additional count over there. So how many times this for loop is executed? You can see that in the counter. You can observe that the for loop is executed 100 times. So can we say that the for loop is terminated at 101? Yes, participants? Or it is terminated when it is 100? Okay, let us observe the output and see what it is. You can see the output of print I is 99 and it is not 100. That means the last element that is going to print is 99, but we are getting the count as 100, that is n plus 1. So it will terminate the for loop when the I becomes 100. Therefore, can we say that this for loop is executed n plus 1 times, or exactly n time? What would be the answer? So since the meaning of this 0 to 100 is simply, I'll write the meaning over here. It simply means for I equal to 0, I less than 100, semicolon, I plus plus. So naturally it simply means I should be less than 100. So if you assume that n is equal to 100, then you can replace this with n. So over here I replace this with n, and now let us check whether the output is similar to n. So you can see the output that it is giving 99 and it's terminated at 100. So it is less than 100. Do you agree with this? Yes, participants? The last print statement which I have highlighted. Okay, so this loop simply means that it is giving you answer 1 less than it. So if n is equal to 100, it will give you as the it will be terminated at exactly n in this case. So now let us make some changes. I'll make over here another change, n plus 1. Now over here we'll make a equal to sign. Understanding the for loop at the right hand side which I have highlighted? Yes, participants? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the Middle condition is the terminating condition. So over here we say it is less than equal to 100. Now it is expected that it will work for equal to, and let us see what is the number of count. So we get the count is 101. Everyone got that by just changing a simple sign, that is from less than to less than equal to, you will get n plus 1 as the output. So over here the complexity, that is the loop, is repeated n plus 1 times. Everyone got the concept? Okay, now let us move to this line over here. I'll move over here. Now let us see how many times the count was been executed. So I just open the output, not run it. You can see it was printed 100 times. So can we say it is printed n number of times? So since n is equal to 100, it is printing the count as 100, and therefore we say it is executing n number of times. So this is n is nothing but the frequency. So I can put it in the format of frequency of n plus 1. Again, frequency is n. This print statement, so giving the output of console. Now, if you observe the time quantum required by the print statement, we will see the significance of that also. So sometimes when you use a memory cycle, for example, over here, let us see int. Count 1 is equal to 0. So over here, how much time required for the computer to do this work? So it is simply an assignment operator, that is you are just assigning the values. In this sense we say initialization, and sometimes when it is just initialized to some, it is termed as memory cycle. That means we say it is concerned with memory and not concerned with execution. Count 1 is equal to 0. It is a memory cycle. You don't need CPU for that, or don't need to calculate anything. So it will not consume a time. So we say that it is f of 0. Say it is f of 0. So it will not consume any time. We will prove this also. But at present, you should remember that this is a concern with storing or creating a memory. So it is f of 0. So f stands for the frequency and not of any function. Now let us eliminate this print function in the next run. So I'll just run the Python code and see. Check it over here. So you can see my execution time is 1.62. Okay, just record this time, everyone, that it is giving me 1.62, and in the previous one it was giving me some different time. So what was the previous run time? It is 1.50. Everyone getting this? Yes, participants? Okay, so we run the program, but still we are getting different amount of time. Why this happens? It is dependent on the machine availability of resources to run the program. So when a particular screen may be engaged, then it will take a time for the screen to get ready for the data, because the screen is shifting from the console mode to the program mode, or program mode to the console mode. So during the shifting, some time is taken. That is the delay. We can say it is a latency between the IO devices, and due to that some time is added. Now let us see the impact when we remove some IO operations. So what will happen now? So you know that it was greater than 1.5. We just assume that the time was greater than 1.5. So now let us remove this print statement. So I just put a I operation is now terminated, and let us check. See how much amount of time is now. Is it that my program performance improved as per the time requirement has been concerned? Yes, participants. Look at the time. So indeed, when we write or understand the what to be included in the for loop, what to be eliminated from the for loop, your program performance improves. So it is recommended that you should eliminate any print functions, or until and unless it is required, don't include such functions. That will consume lots of time of execution. Even if you want to get the answer, so over here instead of printing the count over here, you can use the return statement. So you can write a function for there and just write return, and in that return you can return the count. So this is where the efficiency of your program will increase. So if you can write count 1, so where your efficiency of your program increases. So let us eliminate this also, and we will see what happens to the execution time. Can you see the program execution time is now? Yes, participants, are you able to get the program execution time? So I'll just put this count over here, the statement, and after that execution time, I put only the print statement at the end. You can see again my program execution time is 0, and I have the count is again 101. So my purpose of runtime is achieved over here. Everyone able to understand? Yes, participants.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so over here what we have done, we have improved the runtime of the program, and still we are getting the expected outcome in very less time. Only thing is the placement of some print statement. So over here, if I again insert the print statement, you can see that my program takes some execution time. This is the time, that is the communication time between the display device and your processor, that a program. So it takes some time for printing the data on the console. So as we increase the number of print statement on the console, what is going to happen? There will be more and more delay in your software development. So you should understand the time complexities, that as we know the time complexity, which function is creating a delay and where to improve the code is most important. Now let us move something further. So over here we estimate the frequencies. So it was over here n+1, and finally here it is f of n. So calculating total. So total, we can move over here. So let's check what is the total. So it is n+1, and since it is only one statement over there, so we took this for loop n+1, and only one statement that is we are executing, that is count 1 is equal to count 1 plus 1. So we add n over here. Let us total all of this. So it is getting 2n plus 1. Now we have to add one more thing. We have a print statement over here. So let us assume that it will also consume a frequency of 1 time unit. Yes, indeed it is taking some time, as we have proved that in between print statements has a latency between the or delay between the IO devices and the processor. So let us consider that is one of the latency or delay parameter. So we assume that also. So over here I add one more to the function. So over here that is the total frequencies. Now the final output is 2n plus 2, and in order to estimate the time complexity we have to remove the constants. So after removing the constants, the outcome will be just 2 of n. Everyone getting the concept? Yes, participants? Okay, how 2n plus 2 is been estimated? So over here we use count 1 is equal to 0. So that we have proved that if you just assign some values, then it will take only memory cycle. So this is storing the data into memory. This is a variable that you can see that in the previous example we have seen that array has some memory or size, and within that size we put some elements, that is value, and there has some address. So this value address is nothing but memory allocation. So this count 1 is also having memory, this n is also having some memory, and this data, that is 0 and 100, are stored in that memory location. Therefore we say that this is a part of memory cycle, and therefore we say it is just a part of space complexity. So how many variables now we are using into the particular program? So let us check how much memory requirement by our particular program. So I represented this with some symbol. So let us say frequency f and memory m. Memory requirement. So memory requirement by ST. So I put it that it is 1. For calculation purpose, it is better that I have declared only one variable, that is ST, and memory requirement of M is 1. Now this code is eliminated, it is not counted in the memory, but it is counted in the program memory. So program doesn't require this as a space in execution. So the execution is required over here. Now next is I of 0. So we have declared another variable. So I'll just list the number of variables over here. So second is we are using first ST, second we are using ET, and we are using I, count 1, and we are using N. Any other variable we are using? Okay, so total variables is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So let us assume we are using 5 memory variables. Okay, so this is my memory complexity. Let us assume that ST requires some amount of space. So in order to find the space requirement, I have that function. We have studied that. So let us complete ST1 is equal to time dot time. Let us find type ST. Now it is of type float. So we simply know that the size of that. So let us see this dot get size of ST. ओके, इंपोर्ट करना पड़ेगा. इंपोर्ट sys dot get size of st. You can observe that the size of st is 16. Similarly, we will have the size of et. We have to find the size of I, then we have to find the size of count1, while find the size of n, and that will be contributed, that is the summation of all the memory requirements, and that will give you the space requirement of your variables of a program. Everyone understood the with respect to a program? Yes, participants? Okay, so what is the key term in this assignment is we have to understand the memory allocation and execution. So when we speak about execution, let me speak about execution, it simply implies uses of CPU, uses of central processing unit. And when we speak about memory, it is uses of RAM. So these are two concepts are different. Your program utilizes RAM and central processing unit for execution purpose. It uses two resources. One is the RAM and another is the central processing unit. Now both, if your program has limited memory, then it is not going to work. That is going to crash. And if your programming, your CPU is busy doing some work, then also your program may crash. For example itself, that due to some network failure, my program is going to not display the screen. Okay, so you might have seen just some time before what happened. Our program was not able to display the string. Why? Because there was a failure in the network. So over here, when we write a program which is not associated with a network, it is just associated with the desktop system, that is writing the code and running on the same desktop, we require at least two resources, that is either memory, surely memory, and the processing unit. To prove that, I'll share another screen with you. Just a minute. Okay, so this is a simple task manager, and it is showing us various programs or processes running at the system level. So system is your operating system that is concerned with your OS. So based on the OS, it is either 32-bit, 16-bit or 64-bit. Currently, we are working with 32 and 64-bit systems. Now over here, we can observe the performance. So over here, you can see my CPU is showing some busy work, and your memory is also showing some work. So when we run this program, it impacts over here. If memory is available, then huge program can run, and if it is memory is not available, then the program may crash. So at the back end, some task is continuously working. So which task is continuously working is over here. I have specified one task, that is, you can see this task I show you. So it is continuously trapping my network. You can see at the back. So when you run a program, it is consuming memory at the back end. And if we terminate this, then the memory requirement will be less. So let us terminate it and see the performance. Memory requirement will come down. One more task is running, that is your antivirus. I'll remove it. And when we reduce the load of the system, then and then only we are going to get good performance. See, you can see my CPU usage is now coming down. Now, still some processors are consuming the CPU. You can see which process is consuming the CPU and memory. So we should know some basics of programming so that you can write memory efficient program. It is not that writing a program and it is working. So it is most important is we have to write memory efficient programs. As we move further, we have seen that it is over here. Seconds or 0 seconds. Now let us increase the size of n. I increase the size of n and run the program. So it took me about 0.290. Just imagine we are looking at the count. Okay. Now let us increase more number of counts. That means my program is going bigger and bigger. This is called as growth function, where your program is doing higher objective. It is doing something higher works. So it is, let us take how much time it will require. So now it is taking some more time. You can observe it is taking 0.25 and over here it was 0.29. So still lesser amount of time was required. Why? Because some part of the program is already in memory. It takes some time for compilation and some time for execution. So total amount of time for a program. So we can say program execution time for compilation plus time for execution. So two things. We have to remember that there is some time to compile the program. So what is this compilation process? वो मैं आपको बताता हूँ what is the compilation process and what is the execution process. So here you can see I have now inserted the first headers over there, that is import time. So what do you mean by this? Yes, participants, import time. We have seen this in PPS, import module. Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
So when you import a particular module, then that module means file is loaded from the hard disk into your system. That's the compile time. And how the compile time can be run? If you run the particular program repeatedly, your file is in the memory or cache. Therefore, it takes lesser amount of time for the new version of the program to run. So even though over here it was 0.29 and it is over here it is 0.25, this difference is due to reduction in the compile time. It was there in the memory, no need to load it. Everyone getting? Yes. So first time when the program runs or in every iteration, it is expected that it will run faster if the memory or resources is available. Now here it took some more amount of time. This is due to the latency. Now take one more example, increasing it to some higher. So I got the result in 0.84 for 1 lakh number of additions. So it is quite easy. Now taking a reverse now, I am increasing the load on the system. So over here I'll put the print statement and let us start with 1000. Let us print the execution time. See how much time it took. It took nearly about 22 seconds. Yes, participants, did you understand the significance of time complexity? So as we increase the load in the for loop, and some additional instructions, so over here we can say there is increase of fn n over here. Simply this implies that there is an increase of n over there, so I put plus n, and this equation will now turn to 3n. n plus 2, and this will turn to 3n. Everyone getting the basics that as we increase the load in the for loop or nearby statement, for here we have increased the load in the for loop, this is going to directly impact the total execution process. Okay, so over here we assume that there was some time for numbers, that is some time was been required, was increased in the program. Let us see an Excel example. I'll share the screen with you. 1 second. Okay, participants, able to view the screen?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what we have done, we have taken the input in the for loop as the size of the for loop is 10, and we have run it. So what we have done, we were here in the for loop, we have initially taken the count as 10, and we have recorded the time for that. So I'll record the time again for you. So it took about 0.185 seconds. I put this time quantum into over here. So for 10, we get some output. Now let us improve or increase the load on the system. Let us take 100 and run the program. So my execution time is now 2.33, and we put it over here. Now let us move for 1000. I increase the load in the for loop as 1000 and check with the output. You can see it is 22.6. So I put this into the Excel file. over here. Now let us increase some 10,000. This is my last recording. You can record anything, but I'll show you the basic recording up till 10,000 only. You can see that as the load on the for loop increases, your program will take more time for execution purpose, and therefore it is very important to find the time complexity, and based on the time complexity we can analyze how to reduce the time for execution purpose. So it is very significant that we must be able to identify the parameters that will be going to consume time. So just it is for any mathematical calculation, it is okay, but if you are doing some IO operations in for loop, it will surely consume some time. So it is recommended to avoid dependency methods for things. Similarly, another example of IO operation is your download operations. So download or upload a particular very big file. So until and unless all the file is transferred, what we do, we keep on in the for loop. So this should be avoided. We should write asynchronous programs for that purpose, avoiding for loops. And now we'll get the answer in just few minutes, few seconds. You can say. You can say it took about 128.78 seconds, so nearly about 2 to 3 minutes. I put this in an Excel file and see the graph over here, output. You can see the output graph. It is giving me some approach. So it is what we have calculated over here. So it is in the form of 3n plus 2, nearly. Is growing 3 times. It is showing me it is growing this function which we have derived over here. It is directly proportional to this graph. Everyone getting the concept? Yes, participants? So what we have derived over here, that is 3n plus 2 is nothing but data performance of that program. Okay, so how to optimize this? If we eliminate these parameters, then you will surely get the faster performance and artificial intelligence and robotics, where you have to improve the performance of the system. Your robot should work faster rather than he is displaying status every time, and things are becoming complicated. So if status are being updated simultaneously, it will take delay and there will be latency in your program. Okay, so in order to remove latency, it is most important to identify the frequency of execution of each and every instruction. And if sometimes some people do miscellaneous things, for example, suppose I want to make an equation, suppose over here C is equal to A plus B is another example, D is equal to C plus 1. So over here it will take 2 instructions. This will be your first will be your this will be your instruction 1, then this will be your instruction 2. Instead that, what computation say, use D is equal to A plus B plus 1. So this is the correct method, because you have increased one memory location, that is C, which is not required. So this is called as memory inefficient program. When you write C is equal to A plus B and D is equal to C plus 1 and make two instructions, then this is wastage of memory, that is C, memory of C is wasted. So instead of that, I directly write D is equal to A plus B plus 1. Everyone getting the concept of how to reduce the space and how to increase the execution time. So over here, instead of executing these two instructions in for loop, I execute only one instruction in the for loop. That will be more better. Yes, participants understood the concept of, at least the concept of or importance of time complexity and space complexity. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So what happens when your increase of a particular load, suppose it is increasing with some time quantum, suppose every time the load is increased with static load increase. So over here it is 10, then 20, that means the rows is increasing by only 10. Okay, so at that time we have some linear equations, that means it is directly proportional to some n. So as your n is increased by 10, the time required is also increased by some specific time unit. So we have some linear equations, we have some logarithmic equations as an outcome, and sorry, we have some cubical equations. We will study all these cubical equations, exponential equation in as far as your program design has been concerned. So what over here is, we say no, we are not writing the program, but we are designing the program. For what purpose? For faster execution. ये सारे experiments क्यों करने हैं, design क्यों करना है? We have to understand the program design so as to do faster execution. So based on your time complexity, we decide whether develop a good program or he has just written anything else. So companies में जब आप प्रोफेशनल काम करते हो, it is expected that you should write memory efficient program as well as less complexity, time complexity program. Getting the basic concept. So as far as today's lecture is been concerned, I'll write the code for the attendance. We'll terminate the session over here. So today's session is, code is C0 hyphen, so first lecture slot 04. So for today's attendance, the subject code you can take down. It is C0 0104. The URL is same for all the lectures, so you can give the attendance for today's session. So if there are no questions, thank you for attending meeting. Thank you very much.